I don't deny there's some strange evolutionary process, but mankind won't be destroyed. The fact that you and I are working here is evidence.
Ça, je sais pas si c'est déjà la musique de Welcome. Hello everybody, how are you doing today? I see everyone is there. Good morning, so welcome to this beautiful place. We are here today for a 3-day program of blockchain technologies, and we have an exciting lineup of keynote speakers today, panel discussions and workshops that will delve into the emerging world of Web3 and how blockchain is revolutionizing the internet. So our esteemed speakers and panelists will share their expertise and insights on fostering mass adoption of blockchain, and we need it, bridging the gap to drive blockchain adoption among the general public, and exploring the potential of DAOs, a new way of doing businesses. So get ready for an enlightening day of knowledge and amazing discussions. So no more talk, let's start with the first presentation with Bertrand Perez from the Web3 Foundation.
Is there a clicker for the slides?
Here you go.
Thank you very much.
Bonjour ParisDOT.comm. I'm Bertrand Perez. I'm the CEO of the Web3 Foundation. I guess some of you who have been in the ecosystem have already heard about us. I'm going to give you more information about what the foundation is doing, what are our goals and mission, why we exist, and what are the important, what is near and dear to our hearts, and why we're in that journey of Web3. So, for those of you who don't know, the foundation was created in 2017 by Gavin Wood, that I guess a lot of you know in the audience. Gavin was a key technologist in the Ethereum project, and then he initiated the ParisDOT project, and the foundation was initially created in 2017 with the goal of pushing forward the agenda of this concept that Gavin coined, called the Web 3.0, and pushing forward the agenda of decentralization and basically giving back to the end users control over their own data. And this is basically what has been the mission since then. And as I like to say, we want to see Web3 technology as being something more than just DeFi. And in everything we do, this is an important item for us, is to show to whoever we are speaking or to whoever we are presenting that the technology is much more powerful than just developing DeFi-related applications, and that there's more to that technology than just the financial side and the financial aspect of it, and that basically any kind of applications can be developed on top of that Web3 technology, and that's what we have been trying to help since the inception of the foundation through different areas and using different tools. So everything we do is open source. So we want to, the two things we believe in is one, Web3, decentralized, give back control of data to end users. And the part that goes with it is open source software. There's basically no way you have to ask people to trust in the code you are developing. You are just showing the code and allowing people to check by themselves that what you are pretending is really what you are doing. And there's no other way, at least in our view, that works than providing open source software. So everything we do is open source, whether it's software or research. As I will explain to you later, we have a very strong team of researchers, and all the results of our researchers are published in an open source manner, so they can benefit not only the ParisDOT ecosystem, but anyone who is willing to use those results within their own blockchains. And I will not cite names here, but there's a lot of blockchains that are directly using the results and the research done by the great researchers that we have at the Web3 Foundation. We are also carrying a lot of educational initiatives because what we believe is that if you want to conquer the hearts and the users and you want to maximize the usage of technology, one side is helping developers come to the ecosystem, give them all the tools and environments that they need in order to be able to develop new applications and services. But on the other side, you also need to provide a lot of educational content so the regular people, the John Doe in the street, is able to understand how to store a private key, how to use a wallet, what kind of wallets are existing around there, and all the basic concepts around blockchain. So we are providing all those educational initiatives ranging from basic blockchain knowledge up to very advanced cryptographic development on top of the Rust language. So this, I guess, if you are here, is that I hope that you are all believing in the same fair and decentralized internet that we are evangelizing. So bringing that layer on top of the traditional internet that provides, that gives back data to and control to end users and provides full decentralization and basically keeps providing the greatness of the existing internet that is has clearly changed, I would say, humanity in a big way, with some, I would say, headaches or problems that come with it when we talk about Web 2.0, very strong centralization and all the issues that come with it. We believe that we can build that intermediate layer that removes all the hurdles and the problems that we are seeing with Web 2.0 and provide services that make sense to end users. So, on the past 3 years, one of the main role of the foundation as the issuer of the DOT token has been making sure that everything that we were doing on the side of the token itself was done on the right side of the law. And we have been especially, so we've been communicating on that end of December, in December last year. We have been having a strong engagement with regulatory bodies around the world, and especially with the SEC in the US, having multiple meetings and spending a lot of time with them to educate them and basically have them through the journey of the white paper that Gavin wrote initially, and showing every time there was an achievement and every time there was a delivery of a feature that was in the white paper, going back to the SEC and to the regulators to show that not only we wrote it in the white paper, but we were delivering on the vision and being helpful to them to understand exactly where we were going, and that basically the vision that we were having of building this new internet was real, and we are not just there to pump 26,000 token like a lot of people are doing in the crypto space, but we were here really to build that new version of the internet with all the values that we were pushing forward. So this is clearly one of the main responsibilities of the Web3 Foundation, engaging with regulators everywhere in the world where it makes sense, to make sure that we are able to help them understand the technology, understand the value that is brought, so that we can partner with them and not end in a tricky situation. We are going to continue that work because it's clearly an ongoing work, and we are going to push forward on that front, especially next week. To give you an example, we are traveling to Japan, and over there we are going to start also the same kind of discussions and interactions with regulators, policy makers, and I would say main stakeholders in that country, which is very friendly to blockchain, but of course regulators want to be sure that they allow innovation while not opening the gates for any kind of bad usage like you can see with the crypto and blockchain technologies. I mentioned previously that we want, and every time I have the opportunity to speak in public and every time I have the opportunity to speak with people who are either from the space or not from the space, we really want to hammer in the head of the people that blockchain is not only for DeFi, and that there's more to that. And all of us need to keep that in mind. And here are a few examples of non-DeFi related projects that have decided to come to the Polkadot environment and build on top of it. And those projects are clearly, none of them are in the DeFi space. So you have Mythical, so that's Mythical Games. For those of you who are gamers, it's a big gaming company. They're having millions of gamers on their platforms, and they are moving to Polkadot to build their Web 3.0 games on top of it. In the middle, we have two very interesting initiatives, because this is clearly a very new vertical for Web 3, and especially for Polkadot. It's the music. So how Web3 can help music creators, music artists to get more, meaning getting more audience, but also getting more money out of the work and out of the art that they are creating. So Sonar is one of the biggest community in the electro, artistic, and tech community. And Sonar will be starting a DAO for all their community, which is a lot of people around the world. And they will use Polkadot to build that DAO to help manage and help their community to have more interactions with the artists and music creators. Primavera Sound is a very big music festival also, and we've been organizing with them in Madrid a month ago the first Web3 Music Summit, where we had the opportunity to bring music creators and to explain to them why they should consider Web3 technology and why this technology can help them reach their goals as artists. And the last one, MeWe, is a social network. So basically, they are having 20 million users in the US in their existing platform, and they decided to move to a fully decentralized platform, and they are building basically on top of Polkadot. So Polkadot helps them decentralize completely the social graph. So that's basically the core information that they have on their users. That social graph, which contains all the interactions that you're having with your connections, all the exchanges. So it's the core of the information. And for an end user, that's basically the key information that the social network has on you. And they're completely decentralizing that using Polkadot. So these are a few of them. I didn't want to put too much there, but just to give you very concrete examples of really new verticals that have a big potential in terms of adoption and in terms of bringing end users to the ecosystem from areas that are clearly unseen at this stage and are completely out of the typical DeFi DEXs and other applications. And I just wanted to mention a word about OpenGov. Basically, in our space, a lot of people is speaking and talking about DAOs. So everyone is building their DAO and so on. While a lot of people were speaking, the teams were building. And OpenGov is today the governance model that is used on top of Polkadot. And today, Polkadot is the biggest DAO in the world, working for real. Right? So everything goes through governance, whether it's updates on the chain or any changes around the chain. Everything is through a governance voting by the token holders, which is unique. And as I said, a lot of others are claiming that they have such things, but when you start scratching, you realize that they're far away from what Polkadot is providing in terms of governance. And again, back to my previous point, achieving on the real decentralization. So US regulators have an acronym to call a lot of blockchain, which is DINO. For those of you who don't know that, DINO is for decentralized in name only. We are typically not there, and there's a lot of other projects who are really in the DINO categorization. Another important thing that I would like to mention is a way that we help the community, and maybe some of you in the room have benefited of that, is our grants program. So I will not go into the detail, but that's basically capital allocation that the foundation is doing. So out of our assets, we are putting money at work to help and to spark projects and initiatives that would not be able to exist without the help that we are providing them. So just high-level numbers. Since the inception of the program, we have given over $11 million worth of grants, and we are continuing. You have here a split of the kind of projects that the grants program has been helping, so a lot on runtimes, development tools, and so on. But that's clearly an important role of the foundation, using our financial assets to help the ecosystem grow and to help developers thrive in the space. And since I see all the lights are coming back, I guess my time is over, so thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. So you can take a seat. Thank you very much for this enlightening presentation. So we will continue with our first panel of the day. Oh, let there be light here. That's wonderful. So here we have the panel moderated by Ursula O'Quintons from the Web3 Foundation. So you can come on the stage, please. So Bertrand Perez, finally you can come back from Web3 Foundation as well, of course. Nathalie Tilac, stay there. I will come to pick you. Stay there. And then we have Arnaud Confuse from Sandbox and Nathalie from ParisDOT Technologies. Okay, she's coming. It's perfect. And we also have Maxime Baron from Ash Consulting. You can come. And Roland Chen from IoTex. And I think everyone is there. Hello, Robert. He's waiting for you. Perfect. I leave you the stage. Enjoy.
Can we start? Because the music is on, so I will assume that yes. Okay, well, thank you for the invitation, ParisDOT.comm. And this is a very interesting event. I'm happy to be here in Paris, back in Paris. I always love this city and love to see the community and people from beyond the community that are coming here and learn about the Polkadot ecosystem. I'm Ursula O'Quintons. I work at the Web3 Foundation with Bertrand Perez. And I've been working in this blockchain ecosystem for about 8 years now. So right now, this is the first time that we can see that we have something very concrete and not too abstract evolving into the blockchain space. I can hardly see the people because the lights are so bright here. But first of all, I would love for each one of you to introduce yourself because I won't make justice from all of you. So if we can start from you first.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. My name is Max. I'm the co-founder of a company called Hash Consulting. We work alongside Web3, let's say native companies, so Layer 1s, Layer 2s, with their communications campaigns and acquisition campaigns. And we also work alongside Web 2-ish, or as I'd like to call them, transitioning Web 2 companies. Again, in communications and also user acquisition, depending on their needs, should they be awareness or whatever else.
Sure, thanks for having me. My name is Roland Chai, so I'm the CEO co-founder of IoTex. So we started back in the year of 2018, really focused on the intersection of blockchain and IoT. So we have done like a lot of infra work in the past few years, and recently there is a rising sector. It's called decentralized physical infra network, DePIN. So that's like where our effort is focused on. So we provide kind of blockchain technology as well as a middle layer that produce a lot of proofs of physical devices. So we work with all the DePIN projects on the market. So that's about what we do.
You already know Bertrand Perez, who just presented at the Web3 Foundation.
Hi, my name is Arnaud Confuse. I'm the head of global comms at the Sandbox. So the Sandbox is a decentralized platform that empowers creators to create their own immersive experiences. Yeah, we can talk about it a little bit more after this, but basically we are providing gamifying tools for everybody.
Product management and clarity, where we are creating strategic positioning and messaging for everything Polkadot. So that ranges from small features, from our cross-chain feature, SCM that was recently launched to Polkadot as a platform in general. And yeah, happy to be invited and speak with you.
Perfect. We haven't done yet. Well, thank you, Natalie. Thank you, everyone. So I will start with Natalie, ladies first, on this panel. And because Natalie's been working quite a lot on how to create these narratives comprehensive to everyone, and she's been working with a lot of the tech teams at Parity as well. So she's been diving deeply into blockchains and the Polkadot ecosystem. So Natalie, the first question is pretty broad because this is something that we all are wondering, and you have more of these details, and how the blockchain technology it will be evolving, creating a revolution for the current state of the internet. You have the experience on working with tech tools regarding to this path?
I think that's a great question, and how I usually think about it is that the big difference to Web 2 and Web 1, where we usually say that Web 1 was about information, Web 2 was about the platforms, and Web 3 is about ownership. And I think that brings the biggest impact and the biggest room for a revolution. How things change when you actually own the things, and what you're seeing is not just a representation of what you have, but it's actually the asset itself, and that changes things. So it changes how we interact, it changes that we don't have our data and our assets in the platforms in between, but we have them, and that's how we can interact with them.
Yes, this is very crucial, because once upon a time, I used to write emails. Then from emails, I went to social media. I was connected with my friends, my family, and that was great. Blog posts, I'm a former journalist, so blog post was the big innovation in the media industry. And then we have seen that the centralization of the whole industry. We were very naive, thinking that we were being free in the internet, and that wasn't always the case. And now we have a big opportunity to evolve on Web3. But evolving on Web3 sometimes is not that easy. People say, why do you need Web3? Why do you? We are super fine with the current state of Web2. So this is a question that I'll be asking you because Web3, it's something that we know, but not everyone gets it. Why do we need Web3? To evolve with the internet. And just one thing, this is an open conversation, please chime in. I don't want to have this structure like someone like asking questions. Please chime in if you have something to add.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like I think like a rephrase your question is basically how would Web3 be beneficial to people, right? At the very beginning, definitely like a Web3 is very beneficial for traders, speculators, because it creates like a 724 global market with liquidity, so people can just come in here to trade, to speculate. But I think like a more important question is about, if Web3 is actually going into everybody, like amongst type of person or people, right? So why Web3 matters to those guys? So that's why like what we're working on is called DP, is kind of like a share economy 2.0 in a way. So if we can remove this kind of middleman, like a Uber, like an Airbnb, right? So from the middle, so they're already kind of decentralized because Uber doesn't have a car at all, Uber doesn't have a driver at all, or like a rider at all, right? So it's all about like a matchmaking, demand and supply side altogether. So if we can go like a one step further by removing Uber in the middle, then drivers can earn more, riders can actually save more, and the world becomes a better place. Like a resource just gets allocated more efficiently. So that's, I think, like essentially how this Web3 will be very helpful to just everyday people, making the world a better place.
No one else have something to add to that?
Well, I might have a partial answer, just to be sure. Your question is why we need Web3, right? Okay. The thing that I think most people should understand is that there is not a need for Web3 per se, right? It's a tool. Blockchain is a tool. NFTs are a tool. Tokens, whatever. you can use them in a very good way, you can use them in a very bad way. We need to use Web3 in the right way. We don't specifically need Web3, but when it is needed for a customer experience or something different, I think the biggest challenge is, and I think we all agree on this, the biggest challenge about Web3 is adoption, right? There's three reasons why all of us are in this room right now. Us speakers, you guys in the audience. First one is, well, I would say passion. That's one reason why we're in this ecosystem. Second thing is money, right? Let's not lie to ourselves, it's true. And third thing is adoption. And money, well, the first two elements converge towards adoption. And the main subject for everyone working in crypto, to my mind, should be adoption, because it's the only way we're going to have a confirmation that we're betting on the right type of technology for everything to move forward in the right direction. And in the right direction, that means self-sovereignty of funds, which is, to me, one of the most important things. For Web2 brands, better customer experience, and also responsibility from a user standpoint. So I don't think, again, it's a partial response. I don't think Web3 is needed, but when you need Web3 to improve something internally or externally with your company, you need to use it the right way. That's what I would say.
Yeah. We're going to go through challenges later in this conversation. But Bertrand, you have a lot of experience. You've been on PayPal. You were one of the co-founders of Libra project, which was huge in the blockchain ecosystem. And you have a lot of experience in payment as well. And you were very early in this technology. You were very curious since the very beginning, and now you have seen the evolution of all of these Web3 technologies. What do you think that there are the key benefits or advantage of using Web3?
I think, and I will not speak again about decentralization, giving back control, and so on. I think these are the typical keywords or buzzwords that are in the industry. But what I would say is, I've been working for Web 2.0, and what do we try to solve? We are entering an era where AI is going to be very powerful. And you will basically have a lot of data on people. So if you mix those two together, it's basically a recipe for an atomic explosion, where those two collide together. You will be able to not only know a lot about people, but you will be able to influence a lot people. And I think this is the key point. Then we have a bunch of usages that derive from that, but I think that if we try to go to the root of why we are there and what we are trying to do, is really keeping the benefits, as I said previously during my speech, is keeping the benefits of the internet, the greatness of the internet, while trying to remove a bit or limit a bit the side effect or negative effects about centralization and about the fact that you digitize everything. So if you're able to digitize one person's life, and that the result of that digitization is not stored with goodwill, to say it nicely, then potentially connected with AI and other techniques, you can potentially harm a lot of people. I think that's the key thing. And what I've been seeing in my previous experiences is that heavy centralization is clearly giving the keys and the control to a small number of organizations, and I don't feel that's good. And I'm not necessarily saying that they are all bad. All those Web 2.0 actors are all evil and Web 3 is good. I mean, this is a stupid point of view. There's good and bad everywhere, all right? But I feel it's too much of power. The new energy, the new oil, the new atomic bomb is data. So the more you centralize it, it's like a nuclear reaction. The more you centralize it, the more you increase the probability of an explosion. And I think that's really the key of it. Then after that, there's tons of other use cases for industries and so on, why this technology is bringing value and why it's better than not using blockchains. But I would say the key element for me, the reason I'm here, is really that central point that is key for me.
This is a good bridge to go to Arnaud, because he worked at a Sandbox. And since this technology is evolving super rapidly, Bertrand came with a very important point: AI. AI and blockchain, they're gonna dance together, and they're already dancing together. A lot of companies are building both with both technologies yet. But it's crucial to have security, because in the decentralized world, we need a lot of security and privacy. Some say that privacy is crucial in order to not monetize with your data. So how does blockchain enhance security and privacy in the context of Web3 applications?
Okay, well, maybe I want to take a step back and explain a little bit how the Sandbox got to Web3, because originally it's actually a mobile game that came out, obviously, as a Web2 application that was made in 2D, where anyone could create their own assets by just really, with a tap of a finger, create a sprite and then a character, and then also could put together an entire game level, really. And actually, this app is still available on the App Store, this older version of the Sandbox. And it was very successful. It had 14 million downloads and a lot of active users. But one thing that the co-founders noticed is that the engagement started dropping because I think, to kind of bounce off of what you were saying, there was really a lack of reward for the creators. Basically, the Sandbox itself was really living through UGC, but the users who created all those contents weren't really rewarded for it. So that's where the co-founders thought, when they saw the first collections, such as CryptoPunks and CryptoKitties, they started thinking, this is where the blockchain can actually solve this problem. And obviously, it does have to do with security also, but I think it has to do with empowerment, where now with the Sandbox, this new version, which is now in 3D, you can create your own assets, and all the tools are free. There's one that creates the assets, the other one called Game Maker that allows you to put all those assets together into an immersive experience. Creators now own whatever they make. And through that, obviously, because they have their own wallet and everything, even if there's a problem on the Sandbox side, they will still own all of that. So I think in terms of security, there's this aspect, but beyond that, I think it's really about empowerment and making sure that people really feel rewarded for their contribution to making the Sandbox what it is today. And so I think that's where it's really key. Now, in terms of security, obviously, I think there are certain applications that the Sandbox is solving by being Web3 now versus Web2. One that we can think of, obviously, is the fact that they own all of their assets. It's really just true ownership. If they want to take it somewhere else beside the Sandbox, once they've created an asset in the Sandbox, but then they have a community, and they can use whatever NFT to create a community on Discord where all the NFT owners are there and everything. And the fact that they're not dependent on the Sandbox, again, makes it a lot more interoperable. For security purposes, I think there are certain things that you can think of, but I think it's really the fact that everything is verifiable, and you don't have to, again, go through a centralized authority to check for everything. We've seen it with, sometimes, rewards that we give to, different users and everything. All of that can be done through the blockchain, making it a lot more secure.
Security is key in this ecosystem. And privacy as well. That was the Cyberpunk Manifesto, right? In 1992 or 93, that they were mentioning about all of these issues as well for the current state of the internet. So I'm gonna go to an open question. Please chime in and be part of this conversation, because this is an important one, because a lot of people say, okay, blockchain is great, Web3 is great, but where are the use cases? We need to see the tangible use of this technology. So I will start with you, Nathalie, because you've been working with some of these specific examples on how do we provide real world use cases for this blockchain ecosystem. If your grandmother will ask you, what do you do? I work on blockchain, but what do you do? So explain to her in a very specific example. Same to all of you.
Okay, usually my examples would have been around internet, but I'm sure she would understand the internet as well. I'm quite happy that in the last couple of years we've also seen use cases beyond the B2B use cases and the finance use cases. So everything that we use in the internet, from social, we've given some examples in social, to cloud storage, and I think they're pretty strong. And again, it's everyone who's in Web 2 understands that we need these services. We need something like Dropbox or other cloud storage providers to store our data and give access to everyone. And it's only, and I think that's how I like to think about it, it's this can't versus won't thing. So usually we trust that things will just exist and they will continue to exist, that they are secure and that they won't go bankrupt and they won't stop their services. But it's the can't thing that Web3 makes a difference for. So there are many industries where you actually need to save your data for decades, 50 years, 70 years, and you're liable to do it. And also in social networks, imagine, I think all of us, we're in some social network where we would actually like to change if we had the chance, but we're staying there because of our connections. And if we had the chance to leave and take our connections with us and take our accounts with us and just move over to something else, I think that's true freedom in Web3. And I quite like that we're now seeing also more B2C use cases, beyond the things that we talked about 10 years ago, from supply chain to finance.
You know, when I talk with my guys, I usually compare crypto to lithium, which is the most important material for making batteries, for making Tesla car, right, for example. But as a driver, as an everyday person, you use Tesla, drive Tesla, charge Tesla. Do you really care about the lithium, how it works, why it works? No. So I feel the same. Like the tech knowledge, right, if it's useful, it's always kind of transform some certain experience for everyday people, but they don't have to understand why it works and how it works. I feel like crypto will be such a type of lithium, type of technology, eventually change the world, but not everybody understands.
Two things, or two examples I will add as to concrete example of why blockchain is relevant. One is something that we do a lot with some of our clients is, again, customer experience. There's lots of different things in there, but basically having an NFT reliant ownership, not ownership, but like participation in an experience of a brand or something. That's, to me, one good example. Though it shouldn't be just a glorified membership. That's something that we need to work on as well, and that we're still working on. And the second example, which is to me the most important in terms of adoption and in terms of breaking the barrier of entry to investment, is tokenization, or recently rebranded as real world assets, or RWAs. To me, this is one of the biggest revolutions that's been happening thanks to blockchain. You can tokenize anything. You can tokenize wine, you can tokenize equity, you can tokenize bonds, stocks, whatever you'd like, and you can completely destroy the barrier to entry to any form of investment. And that's absolutely huge. Let's say you want to diversify, right? Inflation is through the roof. Depending on where you are, you want to invest in gold. The barrier to entry, if you want to invest in gold, which is one of my previous experiences, is pretty high. Gold bar is going to be around $50,000, $60,000. What if you could buy just $5 of that, or 10, or 50? There's no way you can actually provably, authentically do that without blockchain. There are Web 2.5 solutions out there. They're just not perfect. Blockchain allows you to be 100% transparent about everything that happens on the blockchain. Should it be a private or public blockchain? Doesn't really matter, as long as it's, you know, something that you can check and you can audit. So yeah, to me, tokenization is a really good fucking example, if I should be honest.
I think to your previous point, use cases are important, but user adoption is much more important. And this technology will be successful the day we stop talking about crypto, protocols, and these kind of things to end users, and that we are requesting end users to have their black belt in ERC20, in whatever protocols, in whatever technologies. Like if today we were asking people to be a master in SMTP or other protocols to be able to send an email. So simplicity and providing those abstraction layers that are able to take care of everything for the end user. So we don't ask the end user to be to go through a complete blockchain crash course and be very knowledgeable is very important. And clearly the projects that will be successful would be the ones hiding that complexity and basically providing a complete seamless experience to their end users, so not even the end users know or notice that they're running on a blockchain. That's the key to success.
Yeah, well, this is very important, and we're going through the challenge of this technology. But first of all, that was a very good point, and Bertrand, it is true that we need to talk about the use cases in a broader way, not about the technology, but we still always stuck with something because we keep talking about different narratives that are super technical, like DeFi, NFTs. NFTs are becoming mainstream now, but still technical. And so we will need to use new words in order to create this more user-friendly experience. But we still, beside the adoption and the massively, we're still going through different challenge. And one of the biggest that we have seen lately is regulation, especially in the US, Bertrand. And you've been working, I can't deny, I have to ask you something related to regulation, because you've been super actively involved in all of this. How do you see the landscape of regulation, which is one of the challenges that we are facing right now on the blockchain ecosystem? How do you see different jurisdictions evolving or adopting this blockchain narrative?
So it's very diverse depending on the geographical areas you are located. It's a bit touchy in the US currently, as a lot of you would have heard what's happening over there. But there are other areas that are much more friendly to this space. And if we zoom back in time, Switzerland, for example, was the first one of the very first to really create a framework and a space where Web3 companies were able to execute within a known and reliable regulatory framework, so that you can build your business, you can invest, and without the threat of being sued because you missed something. The framework is very clear. You are either classified as different types of tokens, and depending on the classification that you know from the beginning, then you need to apply by a certain set of rules, and if you do so, then you don't get a bad surprise. Other areas came later, and right now, if we are talking about Europe, for example, the European Commission has been pushing strongly this regulation called MiCA, which is, I will not call that a Web3 or blockchain regulation. This is really much more a stablecoin regulation. That's basically the reaction of the European Union to the Libra project. So it's a way for the EU to make sure that they keep control over stablecoins within the space. But aside from that, they are taking an interesting approach where they don't want to regulate the whole Web3 as a unique thing, because Web3 is, there's a lot of different kind of usages, and they want to, and so aside from stablecoins, they're working on NFTs, for example. So how should NFT be regulated? It's just one piece of Web3, but it's a different kind of animal by itself. DeFi, metaverse, and others. So they're taking a much pragmatic approach than in the US for now, and trying to keep the value of the innovation. So for once, Europeans are not pushing innovation outside, which is great. They're trying to keep this one inside, but trying also to avoid the dark side of the force, I would say, and try to fight or reduce the negative effect. And then, as I said previously in my presentation, there's areas like Japan. Japan is very friendly to Web3. They are clearly having an agenda of pushing innovation, pushing companies to develop there in that space, of course, within a given framework. But I think we tend to be too much US-centric, and for sometimes for good reasons, because it's a big market. So, and we tend to forget or don't see the good news that are happening in lots of other areas of the world where people are getting the value of this technology and they're willing to do it and to let it thrive, provided it's done in a good way and it's not helping bad usages like money laundering, etc. And none of us want that, obviously. But I think I'm very positive from that perspective. And even I think in the US, there's also some hope that the approach could change because now they're starting to see that there's a lot of innovation and a lot of companies in this space that are going out of the US, and potentially this could be a big miss for the country, and it's a great land for innovation, so they cannot afford that. So I think there's some hope, but beside that, in lots of other parts of the world, it's taken seriously in the sense helping innovation, letting innovation thrive, while trying to reduce the potential side effects.
That's great to hear. There's hope. So we will see the next coming month how everything will evolve. But I agree with you. I think that Asia is being more actively evolving into these new technologies as well. While in the US, they need to organize themselves, because one thinks what the SEC says, and then the judge. We just saw that with Ripple this week, or last week. But anyway, this is still evolving, and there's not the last word yet. But I don't know how much time do we have left, but I think that we need to have a couple questions. And this one is going to be like for all of you. Please chime in if you have something to add, because all of you are building in this technology, and all of you will have something to say. Well, we know that blockchain empowers individuals, and this technology, it is still in the evolving phase. So how do you think that in terms of data ownership, we will empower these individuals with Web3?
Could you rephrase the question? What exactly do you mean in terms of data?
How does Web3 and blockchain empowers individuals, basically? In terms of data ownerships?
Well, you have control over everything you do, right? On-chain traceability is one thing. Let's say you have an Ethereum name service, right? Your name is Joe, for example. Joe.eth is your ENS. It's going to have a trace of every single thing that you do, should it be on Ethereum or any EVM-compatible chain. So it responsibilizes people a lot, because you have to pay attention to everything that you do, because it leaves a trace. But I don't think I'm really answering the question here, to be honest.
It's not a black or white. It's just, what do you think how this technology will empower individuals? We know that we're evolving in the current state of the internet, and right now with Web 2, we know the implications of Web 2 when you go into the internet. Web 3 is something different.
Yeah, well, then true ownership is really something that differs from what happened before. We talked about video games with the sandbox, let's say skins, for example. If you're a video game player, let's say you spent hundreds, if not thousands of euros or dollars in skins in a game, the fact that these skins are today non-transferable is a small problem that Web3 can alleviate. And overall, again, it's about self-sovereignty of funds, self-sovereignty of assets overall. You are the actual owner and beneficiary of everything that you own. Talk to your parents about this, let's say, or talk to your grandparents about this. Do they actually own anything? For the vast majority of the assets, there's going to be a middleman in between, or middleman or middlewoman in between. With Web3, that changes. You are, for the most part, if you're self-sovereign and you don't use centralized solutions, you are the actual owner of everything that you own. It sounds a little weird, right? But when you think about, again, our parents, grandparents owning their homes, let's say, for example, they don't really own it as long as they haven't really fully paid for it. It's, property of the bank. And you can apply that framework to pretty much anything in finance. And I think Web3 helps a lot in alleviating that. And also, it helps a lot for small portfolios to be actually the owner of what you own. It's a weird sentence. It should have always been true, but I don't think anybody, or I don't think everybody has ever really owned what they own, if that makes sense. And I think Web3 actually allows that.
Yeah, basically what you say, I have a very interesting story to share. So we did like an experiment in the year of 2020. We actually building, of course, with a hardware partner, like a smart home camera that basically implements you own your data type of idea, right? So you own the private key, you own your Bitcoin. The same thing, you own the private key, you own all the data coming out from your smart home camera. Then you have all the control. So we actually have this one productionized idea. We sold like a 20K such a camera, mostly in United States on Amazon.com. It's a small success. But most interestingly, like we found, people really don't care about that. Like everyday people, they have no sense about own my data, or like, I want privacy, I want to fully, kind of own my data at all. What they care about is if there's a way to monetize the data, maybe through AI, through like machine learning, through some other stuff, so they can earn like $1 per day. So then they start to care about, okay, so this is my data, I'm definitely getting my $1 back every day.
And also beyond, maybe adding to Maxime's last point about the small businesses, I think beyond ownership, there's also the point of access. So individuals and small businesses all around the world who weren't given access because they were dependent on a certain platform or service operating in their area, they relied on them and often just didn't have the access. And I think one benefit of Web3 through data and ownership is also access.
And I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, I think, bouncing off of what everybody's saying, there's definitely a lot of success stories among our also builders in the sandbox. It's something we see pretty much every day of people who manage to, switch to maybe like a 9 to 5 that they weren't super happy with actually living from their own creations. And the only reason for that is because they own the assets and can monetize them right after. If they want to create an NFT collection, for example, then they just can create it and then sell it on the blockchain. So I think, yeah, it's something we already see. I think we talk about, Web3 as something of the future, but it's already starting to set in. And I think when you were talking about, Bertrand, all the kind of different words that we were starting to use, I think as more people start getting being empowered by this technology, they're not going to use those words anymore, to a point where hopefully, just like we don't say, hey, I'll meet you on the internet, I'll talk to you on the internet, we just, use whatever name of the platform we're using. I think we're going to get to a future where, more and more people will not be necessarily using the word NFT, RC20 or whatever, and just keep moving with the actual object, what it represents to them as a word for it.
Bertrand, you were about to say something?
No, I think it was...
One thing I'm going to add, also coming back to what you said about AI and social networks, the problem that we're going to face and that we're already facing today is that it's super easy for anybody to fake anything. So the vast majority of people or users have access to internet, right? Midjourney and language learning models are not that expensive, comparatively speaking, to other solutions, which means that anybody can do anything pretty much. So how do you guarantee the fact that the person you're talking to is not a copycat of the person you'd actually be willing to talk to? Or how do you guarantee that a piece of art is actually, the piece of art that you are willing to buy or that you're willing to invest in? And I think that's also one of the main things that's interesting about blockchains is, in a world that we live in today where anything can be fake at any moment in time, blockchain is maybe the only solution that allows, or one of the only solutions that allows you to be confident in the person you're talking to or be confident in the thing that you buy. And I think it's one of the most prevalent things about blockchain today. And it's funny because you have lots, so to take a bit of a more macro approach, in VC conversations and mostly in the investment world, there's been a rotation from crypto investments to AI, right? AI is the new thing. Everybody wants to invest in AI. But the funny thing is, AI actually justifies the pertinence of blockchain. Again, in the recent example I just gave. So maybe we'll see a rollback of those investments, I don't know. But yeah, just one more example.
That is a very good example. I mean, Bertrand just mentioned it, that we have the blockchain, which is the data, and I'm sorry, the data is the AI, and the provenance of that data is blockchain. So it match together. But I still don't know how much time do we have left, because I have the 2 minutes. Okay, so we have 2 minutes, so very quick. Last question, very open to everyone as well. We know that Web3 is something that is still evolving. We have some challenge, but Bertrand is very positive on the regulation side, that we are going to have a good surprises in the next coming years. And we know that we need to simplify the words on blockchain as well. And we need to get into the masses. How do you see blockchain technology and Web3 this year evolving? Which use cases? At the Web3 Foundation, we just mentioned it, that we're working with new verticals, social media, music, and video gaming as well, which are growing rapidly in order to get more mass adoption. How do you see this technology evolving? I know that it's super broad and it's open to each one of you, because each one of you are building in different ways with this technology. Maxime.
So which way is it going to evolve, or how is it going to evolve? That's what you're asking?
Yes.
Coming back to what you said about the words, actually, right before, we're using complex words like non-fungible tokens, DeFi, stuff like that. I don't think the words should change that much. The experience should change, however. Coming back to what you said as well, the only way we're going to achieve adoption is when people all use blockchain without even realizing it. Like, you use internet every single minute of your day, but do you know how the TCP/IP protocol works? I don't. Not a lot of people do, comparatively speaking to the number of users of the internet. Blockchain is going to be the same. That's what I'm convinced. So in which way is it going to move, or is it going to change? I'm not really sure. It's going to be, more complex on the back side and more simple on the front side. I think that's the way we should go forward, because the best products, or let's say the products that are the most pleasing to use, are a simplified version of a very complex product. Think Apple, right? It's very complex. There's an OS behind it, but it's super easy to use. When blockchain apps, or DApps, I think it's more favorable to have DApps. When those DApps have a UX, UI that is closer to what Apple or any of those big builders do, we'll have a way bigger rate of adoption. That's what I would say. So I'm not entirely sure how it's going to change. It just has to become more simple.
Regarding to words, just one thing. When you're using internet or sending emails, you're not saying, I'm going to use HTTP, protocols in order just to send an email. You just send an email, and you don't use those words.
Yeah, and also coming back to email specifically, I'm not entirely sure it's the case right now. I think we have more advanced solutions, but back in the day, one of the first integrations of proof of work was actually on emails. Adam Back was the one who worked on this. So do you actually know that you're using internet and blockchain when you're sending an email? No, you're just writing whatever you want, and then you click send, and that's it. And once we've achieved that, for DeFi NFTs, we're going to move forward a lot. We don't want to use MetaMask for another 20 years. Like, nobody wants to do that, even us.
Yeah, to me, I think two things would definitely go forward in parallel, right? So one is about DeFi and the research on more primitives, such as account abstraction, zk roll-up solutions, and also like off-chain compute like we're working on. So definitely like those primitives by each of themselves might not be that powerful, but there is some sort of composability. If someone or the app, can combine them all together, I think there will be a aha moment to a lot of people. And another thing is more on the vertical exploration, right? So we really don't know like which will be the killer app, like you were asking. But I believe a lot of developers are trying many different ideas. And definitely like some of them will have a win. And also these two things, like vertical exploration and the primitive R&D, I think they have kind of feedback to each other, see where it goes. So this is how I see the involvement of the thing.
I think for adoption, that was your question, how this is going to grow during this year. There's a lot of the space is focusing on B2C, so we are all looking for the killer app that is going to conquer 100 million users overnight, and that's going to be the holy grail of blockchain. That part could potentially exist, even if I don't know which will be the application, but that could exist. But there's also a part that is overlooked, and that I think is really important, is the enterprise world. And in the enterprise world, so blockchain adoption by enterprise, you have two main use cases. One is optimizing existing processes within enterprises that are suboptimal because of the way they are implemented, and where blockchain/Web3 technologies can increase and optimize those processes. And there are tons of use cases, whether it's in the financial space, but not only, in basically any vertical that different enterprises are covering. They are either relying on legacy platforms and legacy infrastructures that are not scaling enough, or are trying to solve problems of 2023 with technologies that were invented 15 or 20 years ago. So that's the first part, which is how Web3 blockchain technologies can help enterprises optimize existing processes, saving those bips of margin that are key for them. And when you're in industries where basically you're making a 1% or a 1.5% benefit on your yearly revenue, every single bip that you can save here and there is just a huge win. And the second part, so that's optimizing of the existing processes, and the second part is new services that enterprises can sell to their customers, whether they are B2B, so other businesses, or B2C, end users, that they can deliver in a better way with a better user experience using Web3 technologies. And that whole enterprise bubble is clearly, I think, overlooked by the crypto industry, because the industry tends to think too much in B2C mode, right? And Natalie, you mentioned supply chain before, so those are also, that's a clear example of a vertical where a supply chain is interacting with tens, hundreds of different stakeholders. There's no trust. They don't trust each other because basically you don't know those people, or it's complex. And blockchain was basically designed for that kind of use cases. And there are tons like that. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot has already been said. I do agree with the aspect that I think a lot of the solutions are in B2B solutions, things that are under the hood that most laymen wouldn't really need to be aware of as they use this technology. I think beyond that, obviously, there's still communities that are going to be built around blockchain. I think it's here to stay within the actual scope of what we know today to be the Web3 community, or however you want to call it. But for it to hit mass adoption, I think we've already talked about this. It's mainly about making it very seamless to a point where just as we said, all the protocols are completely. There are so many layers of abstractions that you don't realize they're there. I think certain things, though, that when it comes to supply chain, again, verifiability, there's a whole new slew of, I think, sea change coming in with education and all the things that AI is providing that might also create a lot of problems. As you mentioned, Max, a lot of those can be fixed. You see it also just in NFT culture overall. You own an NFT doesn't mean that you necessarily you're part of a community. And I think based on all the generative AI that's coming out with a lot of people, talking about ownership of this, because, you just write a prompt and then, it generates a picture. One way to at least be certified as the original creator of that, obviously the blockchain would provide a solution for that, where apparently legal frameworks aren't really in place yet. That's one thing we can think of. The other thing is, I think, education. When it comes to AI, an AI can really teach you a lot of different things. You can learn a lot. I mean, it's like having your personal tutor, no matter what you want to learn, if it's a language, if it's, programming or math. And where I think AI is really super helpful, I think, when it comes to, being able to certify all that as we go into probably more diversified ways of teaching people. And maybe schools won't be the only way, the only place where you can learn. It's already the case with, MOOC and everything, but I think it's really going to keep going developing. I think, again, the blockchain can provide that kind of certification solution that a lot of people are going to be seeking in the future. So I think it's a bit early to see what new applications of the blockchain are going to be. I know, from the sandbox perspective, definitely the ability to empower creators, which we've already covered, I think is already there and is going to keep growing. We have, over 300 partnering studios, whether they're really small or really big, and whether they already have Web 2 development facilities or they're just started really with the sandbox. We'll see more and more of those people coming in and joining the ecosystem and developing that also through interoperability into different metaverses, which is really exciting.
I would also have 2 points. One is about technology. So I think what we are going to see this year and next year is everything cross-chain, so interoperability and composability. We now have the tech, and it's up and running, and it's performing and functioning, and things like using login credentials for your NFT marketplace. So they are, when you think about the things that we can combine, and once we move out from the silos that we currently have in Web3, I think that's going to be super powerful. And industry-wise, that's the second point. I have the feeling at South by Southwest earlier this year, we were approached by so many media companies and in entertainment and music who said, we have a huge community, we have a community of millions, but no one cares. If we stop tweeting tomorrow, if we stop posting tomorrow, no one would complain. And I think that is really big, and we have seen this, and we have given some examples earlier in the talk. I think what we are going to see is this community building around, with fan engagement in the entertainment and music industry.
Perfect. So that was a great wrap, Natalie. Thank you. All we know that the internet is changing, although it seems like a long, long time, 10 years, 12 years since Bitcoin white paper was released, 12 years now. But we're just at the beginning of this exciting journey, so we will see more of this evolution. Thank you all, and thank you to the organizers to having us today here at ParisDOT.comm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have the mic. Thank you. So we can, thank you very much, Natalie. If you need some help, it's fine. Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys. Yeah, no worries. Okay, perfect. So I have a little information for you guys. The conference room upstairs is open, so feel free to explore this wonderful place. And so now we will switch to a workshop, the first of the day, fostering mass adoption of blockchain. And so please welcome Benjamin Belliti from Blockchain Innov and Aurora Douane from Blockchain HEC High School. Please, the stage is now yours.
Ça marche toujours pas le micro. Ah, on est bon.
Allô, allô.
Thank you, everyone. Pleasure to be here today. I'm talking with Aurora. Today we are talking about fostering blockchain adoption. which doesn't just happen in the enterprise world. It's also something that we are trying to foster everywhere. It starts in universities, in schools, and this is what Aurora is going to talk to us about at Blockchain HEC. And I'm going to talk about the Blockchain Innov Association, which is a French association started a year ago that I'm representing as VP of Events and Corporate Relationships. But Aurora, how are you today?
Awesome, fantastic, and you?
I'm doing great, thanks.
Yeah.
So tell us about Blockchain HEC and what are you doing there and how you're helping to foster mass adoption of the blockchain.
Sure, with pleasure, yeah. Firstly, thanks for ParisDOT for having me to be here today. Yeah, it's such an honor to introduce to you all with Benjamin, talk with Benjamin, and introduce Blockchain at HEC to you all. Yeah, Blockchain at HEC was founded in 2017. We are a professional club under HEC alumni, non-profit organization with a dynamic community of more than 70,000 alumni. We are a very active community, cross-generational, with a cross-generational community since we presented on campus with more than 5,000 students. We have several regional hubs all around the world, in France, in the UK, Hong Kong, Dubai, and so on. Yeah. So the original missions to launch Blockchain at HEC is to embrace the new technology of blockchain technology, to fostering collaboration, communication, innovation, to help more people to get to know more knowledge on Web3 space. For example, dApps, infrastructure, yeah, Web3 investment, etc. So what we have been doing, what we have been doing. So we have three main activities. First of all, it's about the event organization. We have 4 big in-person events throughout the year. The last one took place yesterday. Yeah, last night, named Blockchain for Good and Sustainability. We are trying to explore more together about how blockchain technology can drive more positive change and achieve more social impact. And on the other hand, how to foster environment protection, sustainability together, since it's a very crucial topic today. And we invite many experts, researchers, and Web3 giant leaders, yeah, to talk about that. Yeah, that's the in-person event. We also organize many webinars. It can be way more frequent. So the next one would be in September about how blockchain can help optimize luxury sectors, yeah, combined with creators economy we will talk about. Yeah. And all of the webinars will be recorded online. You can find everything on our website, blockchain@hec.com. Yeah. So the second activity we are doing is we are trying to build up a dynamic and active talent pool. We try to accumulate more talented people inside of our campus and outside as well, to try to introduce more professional talented people to the ecosystem. So the third one, which can be combined with the third one. So we are always passionate about testing and learning. So we are open for all opportunities and startups. We provide free advisories. We can try the new product. You can reach out to us if you want. And we are trying to always trying to challenge the resilience of our startup communities. Yeah. And since that, every year we select very prime partners and sponsors to provide us with a professional legal audit and some other support. For example, PwC, this year with PwC D&A partners with legal audit and compliance support with other family offices as well. So we are always open for any options. And if you have any, you want to propose something, yeah, try to reach out us directly. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Benjamin, maybe tell more about your organization as well.
Sure. Yeah. So actually, I'm not sure it will work, but yeah, it does. Great. So Blockchain is a French association trying to first target French-speaking people, but we're trying to evolve. Our mission is to explore and promote any type of usage of the blockchain, and also organize events to gather a community of people, whether they're professional of the blockchain or they're just interested, curious about it. We're trying to organize as much events and gathering as we can to help actually foster mass adoption. So our board of vice president is pretty large because we're really trying to address any topic regarding the blockchain. So it's like all the different verticals, NFTs, metaverse, crypto, DeFi, etc. But also things like real estate, blockchain topics, or fundraising with the blockchain, any type of subjects. We're trying to have someone in our association responsible for that to help companies and people interested in this topic. So it's pretty wide, as I just said, and our main values are centered around collective intelligence. So what we're really trying to do is enable the will to create new things, to develop our projects the best way we can. So it's not just events, it's also advising each other and together become better at what we do. So what we do is actually a lot of different afterworks. So it started in the city of Cannes, where our association is established. But we are also doing some other events. We've done some events in Paris, in Lyon, in Marseille, Montpellier. We're trying to have like one of these afterworks every month. And if we manage to become more and more, we want to do more. We want to do more gathering of these types because they are a great way to talk together, to enable this collective intelligence, to network. And it happens a lot that whatever our project is, we're missing someone. And the more we are, the more we manage to have these networks of people that can complete each other. So on top of just gathering between members of the association, we are also looking to have like awareness gatherings. Some of them were about impact, so something in common that we have with blockchain at HEC. We are also helping companies, so we are invited by some companies in the south of France for a start, because this is where we're established, to talk about some Web3 topics. One of them very interesting was about like the Web3 business models that we recently had at Amadeus. It was a great exchange because we had great business people that didn't really understand the fundamentals of Web3. So it was a great way to involve our community, but also to get some more awareness among a big company, and that's really the core values of our association. We are also organizing some more events. Like here during the Festival de Cannes, we had the chance to have a full day dedicated to the blockchain with great partners like Sandbox, who's there also today, like the group Partouche, like the group MK2. And yeah, definitely when your association is established in a city like Cannes, you have to be about movie and you have to be about creativity. So these are also one of the things that we're really trying to explore regarding the blockchain and how we can change the world as we know it today. We also have some digital events that we call Blockchain Breakfast, which I'm organizing in every two Thursdays, at 9 a.m. So I'll be very happy to have some of you here. And we are also starting to have some international partnerships. So we will be at CES in 2024. And we're also organizing, sorry, it's in French this time. It's the Web3 Francophonie. So it's basically, we are not just French people speaking French. And before we start opening our association to non-French speaker, we're already first trying to establish an association that goes beyond French limits, that goes in Belgium, in Luxembourg, in Canada, maybe many different countries who speak French. And we're trying to have this first level of gathering, but we really want to be a global association because this concept of, first of all, being there for any type of topic that you would like to talk about regarding the blockchain is very important. And the fact of having members coming from many different types of backgrounds, developers, business people, just people who are curious, it always enables great discussion and into the collective intelligence. So I guess, we have some other events, but our next step is this Blockchain Innov Studio. So we're starting to organize and clarify the way we want to engage new companies who would like to join the association and have a different framework based on what kind of needs they could have, and trying to really help them find what they want, what they need to develop their business using our association. So we are open to any type of people, a single people who's just interested, who doesn't have a company or whatever, can also join this association. We really want to be wide. So whether you an individual, a small, medium, big company, a collectivity, we want to be there for you, and we want you to join this collective intelligence. So that's it for Blockchain Innov. And I'm sure we should definitely set up something like a co-hosted events between Blockchain Innov and Blockchain at HEC. It would definitely make sense.
Yeah, I would love to. I think maybe after we can have more side events or some collaboration together. Yeah.
Sure. Awesome. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Aurora. And actually, we will be together for the next panel. So I guess we're done for now. So thank you for participating.
Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think you can stay on stage because you will be co-moderating the next panel. not so fast. You can take a seat.
Okay.
So I will welcome the next one. So,
Sorry, you still have us for now.
so please welcome Atan Guo from Blockchain HEC High School, Benoît de Dieuleveux, so you can join the stage, Arnaud Kemphuis, if he's there, and from Sandbox, and Maxime Baron from Ash Consulting. Not sure they are there.
I think I saw Arno and Maxim on the previous chat, actually.
Yeah, I have them on the, yeah, I don't know if they are there or David, can you hear us? Yeah, is the next panelist there? So Arnaud, Maxime? Okay. I think you can start.
Yeah.
You can start, I think. The stage is yours.
All right.
I mean,
so now that we've introduced our associations, I'm happy to have you guys with me right now to talk about it, to talk about this mass adoption that we all want. I mean, people who are or have been in the Web3, we know that this is critical. We know that Web3 will be really considered seriously only when we reach a certain amount of users. Maybe users is actually not the right word, and maybe that's one of the main topics of today. Web3 is about community. When you create a project, you're not just looking for customers, you're looking for a community. So what does it mean for you? Oh, and here it is. Hey, Arno. Thank you for being there. Do you have a mic?
If there's no mic, it can, yeah, it works? Great.
Perfect. So, Arno, I will not ask you to introduce Sandbox, I guess.
Sure.
Thankfully, everyone knows it, but yeah, please.
Yeah, so sorry for being late. I thought we'd have a bit more of a break, but this is great, actually. I'm great, super happy to be back. So the Sandbox is, let's call it decentralized metaverse, which is a platform for builders and creators to be able to create their own experiences or games that are interactive, immersive. We work with, we partner with a lot of different brands, including The Walking Dead, celebrities like Paris Hilton, Snoop Dogg, all kinds of different big partners, but also we really empower people from all over the world really to start building and creating their own experiences. And then through blockchain, basically, we let them own whatever they create and be really in control of whatever they make. We have a map on which, that contains 166,000 parcels of land, which through land you can actually share your experience with the world. So that's kind of how it works. We can get into more details later.
Thank you very much. And so apart from being from the Blockchain at HEC Association, you guys have your own projects that you've been starting this recent weeks, months, years, I'm not sure exactly. Can you talk about it?
Yeah, so I started my project Clarify, which is a tool to track and gain clarity in tracking DeFi wallets. So really DeFi users oriented. So yeah, debunk like if you know debunk Ethereum, but really focused on the tracking of the activity actually, because people want to know what they are doing. They want to follow movement of other people, but the ground tools are kind of tricky to use and not really clarify. So I want to improve this.
Cool. And what about you, Ethan?
Mine's less interesting. So I'm a venture investor at Generative Partners. So we are actually a new fund that just got our first PR issue yesterday. But obviously we've been around for a long time because we pivoted from Web 2 to Web 3, which is kind of our core competence actually. We used to invest in mobile internets, about 40 unicorns and 13 IPOs for the past 15 years. And we definitely have encountered, obviously, around 2017, a lot of crypto projects that we took a look at, a lot of supply chain finance, a lot of RWA from the last narratives. So we did have our encounters, but this is the first, well, I guess the determined move into Web3 is creating a new fund. Yeah.
Great. We'll talk about that for sure later on. And Aurora, you're focused on impact, right?
Right, yeah. So I work for blockchain at HEC, but at the same time, I'm also a serial entrepreneur. Yeah. First of all, my project is about education technology, and then now I'm devote all my time on my second startup, Impactopia. Yeah, it's on my T-shirt. Yeah. It's a Web 2.5 philanthropy and social impact platform. We aim to help all of the NGOs all around the world collect donations with crypto based on blockchain and try to connect all of the impact makers together based on their different social cause with same common social cause, common value, yeah, to make a bigger impact together, yeah. So that would be very crucial to do the mass adoption. We just found that, so we called it Web 2.5. Yeah.
Thanks. So yeah, when you're talking about values, definitely that's something that people need to rely on, and I guess we've talked about that for a few seconds earlier. Arno, I guess the first way to onboard people and to have them want to come in is to make sure that they understand why they're coming. So why the blockchain?
Okay, so yeah, I think the blockchain just provides a technological solution. It's not a product in and of itself for, I would say regular people. And so there needs to be a value proposition and a problem that it solves. When it comes to the sandbox, we're originally, again, like a Web 2 game, that started over 10 years ago, and we're still actually on mobile right now, in the App Store, but that's the old version. And the old version was off-chain, obviously, and it was very popular. I mean, there were, again, 14 million downloads throughout the years, and it was really a UGC-based platform, meaning people could create their experiences, share it with people, directly on their mobile. And everybody could enjoy everyone else's different experience, similar to Mario Maker, for example. But something they noticed, the co-founders noticed, Seb and Arthur, is that the engagement started dropping among the creators because they weren't getting rewarded for really contributing to the success of the platform. And so they thought, we need to decentralize this, and the blockchain was actually the one solution that solved all this. And I think it speaks for a really great use case of why the blockchain is so important for people. At least, I think it needs a context, basically. When it comes to the sandbox, this is a very clear context. I think you see it in video games overall with the fact that there are a lot of different digital items that have value for people, just based on the sheer amount of time they spend in a game, grinding a game to actually get them, whether it's a PlayStation achievement. I have friends who will grind whatever game they buy to have all the platinum achievements. I don't know if you guys are gamers, but like some people are really into that. And for example, that would be a great application to have directly on the blockchain, because if you switch from PlayStation to Xbox, or at some point PlayStation changes their system, it'd be kind of cool, I think, for example, to have those on the blockchain, and then you can create communities among like the biggest Dark Souls players, and you have to be platinum to be able to get into that. And those things, I think, is just one example. I'm taking, again, like more of an entertainment approach, because this is where I come from, but there are many other different applications you can think of.
Yeah, sure. Maxime, thank you for joining us.
Sorry.
How are you?
I'm super sorry.
No problem.
Come again.
I'm doing great, thank you. So we're talking about fostering mass adoption and making everyone, if we can, come into the Web3 and to the exciting things that we are excited about. Maybe not everyone now, but maybe I have this question is, is mass adoption, should it be the mission of any Web3 project funder? Or, I mean, to explain that, what we're saying is that when you start a Web3 project, depending on the project, you first want a community of people who will be engaged, who will really believe in what you're doing. And maybe sometimes this is not compatible with mass adoption. Maybe for some Web3 founders, it's not about that. What is your point of view regarding this part?
Yeah, my main answer would be no. Like, it doesn't always have to be for mass adoption. I think, well, it could be the main driver for anything that you're doing, but for something that you're building, you know, not all products are actually going to work within the scope of mass adoption. There's multiple examples today. Let's say safe, for example, like multi-sigs. Do you really think that, you know, normal people or not, you know, professionals in the crypto industry are going to actually want to know how a multi-sig is going to function? I don't think so. So it really depends on the nature of the product that you're building. I think, again, it should be the main driver for anything that we're trying to alleviate, through anything that we're trying to solve with Web3 technology, but it's so large. Like, Web3 is crypto, it's NFTs, it's DeFi. There are subcategories in a very big, I was going to say bubble, very big market. So it should be the main driver, but it shouldn't be, like, it should be part of your vision. I don't think it should be necessarily like a purely tangible objective, because it really depends on the nature of the business you're building.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. Do you guys want to?
Yeah, I totally agree on the fact that currently the big projects that take the bridge are not for mass adoption, not for my parents will never use this because they are not the targets. So yes, at the beginning of a project, you just have to identify to who you are talking to, and just clarify at the beginning. That's it.
Maybe to jump also on what you said, Arno, about, for instance, having Web3 games inside a PlayStation or Xbox or things like that. Would it be about maybe saying also that reaching mass adoption is maybe the mission of these traditional or Web2 companies? Maybe our job as Web3 people is to convince them so they can convince the mass?
I think that really the thing about Web3 is that it makes people a lot more involved in the community. I think it's a lot deeper of an integration of your community. So it doesn't matter if it's big or small. I think once you are within a Web3 community, whether it's through an NFT collection, you know, with PFPs, or via gamified platform or other kinds of even DeFi solutions, you are somehow a lot more, I would say, involved. That's usually something you see, at least in, you know, again, like video gaming and entertainment and everything. We don't have the same mass adoption that you have in regular, I would say, Web2 games. But I think it's more about first the depth, and then the breadth, of course, comes after. What you need is really solid roots, basically, in order for you to be able to create and show value, and also champion, I think, the ones that are contributing to growing your platform. And you see it with, again, the use cases we've had among our builders. So this is really, you know, this year we're opening features for people to be able to publish on their land independently. We've started basically allowing people to apply for publication of their experiences. So if you create a game in the sandbox today and you have land, you can actually apply to actually get it out there. And we're more and more going towards this UGC model. We used to have more curated approaches to creating what we called alpha seasons, because we're still in alpha stage, but really we're starting to deploy this in order to become a UGC platform. So for that, really our goal, especially in comms, is to really kind of showcase and champion the people who are actually building this. And I think based on that, people will realize, oh, there's really value add to being part of the sandbox based on how I want to engage with my community by creating these interactive experiences, but also just overall, just being part of this culture that we're trying to really build throughout the world. We have, again, partnering with over 400 brands that are, known worldwide. It also gives a lot of exposure for whoever wants to create their own experiences, and you can do it no code. So I think it's a combination of really being appealing to, for example, the Paris Hilton fans. Paris Hilton is very active in Web3. Being able to, create a tool for Paris Hilton and her team to create cool experiences for her fans, and then we onboard them through the sandbox. But also for many people who are at the sandbox because maybe they were a fan of the Smurfs or Pororo, which is a Korean IP, or Nainchen, which is a Taiwanese singer. Like, we can always kind of create these mashups that make communities kind of intertwine and learn from each other. And I think that's how we can build. By, again, not showing, hey, you can do this with the blockchain, but here's your favorite IP on there, and check this out. In this neighborhood, you can also find this one and that one and that one, and start developing, like, discovering all these new universes.
Yeah, so on one side, you propose a set of tools to these master ambassadors, to take, like, the case of Paris Hilton or Snoop Dogg, obviously, or others. And on the other side, you address the mass by saying, they are here. And they have new experience. They are empowering you with new solutions, right?
Yeah, exactly. The idea really is to be able to, again, it all starts and ends with the creators. Just like if you're a UGC platform, YouTube is nothing with its creators. Well, it's very similar for the sandbox too. And it's, again, like, because of the barriers of entry you have with creating a wallet and all those things that seem very second nature to us because we've been in this, Web3 kind of community for a long time. We need to educate, and we need also, I think, to humanize. Through communication is very important for people to understand that there are people behind this. It's not just, people hiding behind very expensive JPEGs.
Well, just one comment, maybe, coming back on ownership and the community approach. I think, and also coming back on your question, comparing Web3 enterprises or things we're trying to build, comparatively speaking, to Web2 companies. The main thing that changes from a community standpoint is your clients, let's say you're a brand, right? You issue NFTs for some reason, right? The thing that changes is that now they have a financial incentive to be a part of what you're building. And to give kind of an illustration to that, it's in a similar way, the difference between an employee in a company and someone who owns equity. There is a switch in mentality from someone who's working for a fixed salary and someone who's working with equity in the company, because when you have equity in the company, when you work more, there is, in theory, a direct influence over what you earn. And that specific switch really, to my mind, happens with the community approach of brands and Web3 companies of brands. I think that's the most, or one of the most important approaches is the fact that you can directly have an impact over your financial success while still being attached to a brand that you don't own. Which kind of, it doesn't really make any sense when you think about it that way. But when you actually own an NFT from a brand and you're active in the community, you talk about it around your, or to your network, it has a direct positive or negative, but supposedly positive effect on what you own and what you have. I don't think it ever happened before, at such a scale.
Yeah.
In the history of tech, I think.
Yeah, somehow it makes, maybe we could say crowdfunding was like a first level of this.
Yeah, in a way. You're
but
right.
At the same time, and it's because today we're talking about mass adoption, given what you just said, it should almost be the opposite. You need to micro-target the right people who will represent you well, who will not say bad things about your project or your brand. I mean, isn't it sometimes it's the opposite? You don't want mass adoption. You want to find the exact right people who could be the right ambassadors for your project? Would you say that?
Well, yeah, again, it really depends on what you're building, because if you're really confident on what you're building, giving a micro part of that to a community, it's also an experience. It's just trying something new, trying some new or to add some new stakeholders into the loop. It has some risks, of course, There's brands that have launched NFT collections and that have been absolutely trashed for good or bad reasons. Yeah, so I don't have a perfect answer for you. It depends on what you're building. And it's a risk, of course, for most companies, specifically now, given the fact that we have a framework, legal, technical, and UX-wise, that is a bit difficult. But it's something new that I think every brand should try. It doesn't have to be, new people. Let's say Louis Vuitton, for example. They only sent those soul-bound tokens to very high-profile clients that they already had. So it's a way of incentivizing them in a new way. It doesn't have to be completely public.
That's true. Well, now, guys, let's talk about the famous bear market, where we've been in there for like 18 months, more or less, and words like NFT, blockchain, Web3 have become enemies. And we're seeing more and more companies trying to use blockchain technologies, but without using these words. Maybe some other are not doing the same, but that's what we're seeing a lot. And every time I'm talking with an entrepreneur launching something, he always tell me that now we're using the blockchain, but we don't say it. Is it because of the bear market, or is it going to last? I mean, even when we will be back in the bull market or something, are we still going to use these words, or was it just like a mean to an end?
Ethan, go ahead.
Please.
Yeah, so I really hate the word bear market. It's not that I hate bear markets. Markets are ups and downs. The volatility makes up the markets. And especially for a new asset class like crypto, it's just completely normal. If you have been through a couple cycles, then I think most people will find it just another turnaround. Regarding the question of why I don't think we're in a bear market anymore, that there are a couple factors that are causing the current circumstances, and a lot of it are due to very macro and monetary issues. That affects pretty much everything we see or we own or we use, right? I think in terms of specifically for crypto, as long as there is more people building, there's more projects coming up, and like you said, a lot of people now, they are getting into crypto since they think it's a good time, and a lot of Web2 developers are coming to build on crypto projects because the big techs, they're also affected by this bear market, right? So as long as as Sandbox community is a huge focus, that goes across any crypto project. So as the community grows, the industry grows, and I think this bear market is it's set off to turn around. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's market value and there's intrinsic value, which is what users perceive as being value, and that's what we're focusing on. Really, is just building more of that actual use case value. That again, making our games more fun, making our tools easier to use, so that builders can make more fun games. And if this works out, then the whole ecosystem will work out. And so whether it's up or down or whatever, we keep building. That's the most important.
Yeah.
I think just about the the bad buzzwords as of today. I think the reason why they're seen as bad buzzwords is because there's a fracture between what the vast majority of people think and not even think. There's a fracture between what normal people see from the crypto market and what's actually happening. Because the thing is, the reason why those words are actually considered as bad words or bad buzzwords is because Bored Apes went down 95%. Pretty much, right? If you want to simplify it in the most absurd way possible, it's pretty much what happened. So I think it's fine if they still or if they keep being bad buzzwords, and we're gonna say digital twins or we're gonna say something else for NFTs. It's who cares as long as the technology is there. I mean, NFT in a way, just the acronym, non-fungible token, just the definition of fungible is something that's been tough to explain for everybody in the professional industry, to explain to a normal person. So I don't think it really matters how we call them, for as long as we use them. And to take the words of our famous sailor, there's no second best in terms of technology usage, in my mind, at least for some use cases, not for all. But so I think it doesn't really matter how we call them, for as long as we use them.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say, I think it's great, like right now all the mainstream audience do not talk anymore about all the NFT scams because it was a really bad vision of the technology. But right now, even if it's the bear market, if you look at the numbers, the people are really using it. It's still, all the Ethereum wallets are very, very active right now. And project funders are building great products. There are a lot of technology going on, which lead, I hope, in a better way in a few years.
Thanks. You wanted to add something?
Yeah, I want to add something. Yeah, I think now we always say that during the bear market is the best timing. I mean, for builders to build. I mean, so why? I mean, during the 18 months, I mean, what happened? I mean, the NFT. I mean, there are less and less bubbles, hypes, the financial speculations. So, as the future of the NFTs, as we talk about, I mean, it can be. We will use it as a. We will use it more of its utility, not the financial valuation, not the speculation. It can be just a ticketing, a DID, soulbound token, to do the identity verification. It can be way more that. And now, since during this bear market recently, there is some popular conception as RWA, real world asset, these kind of things. That means we embrace the new the blockchain technology. We combine it with way more physical things or some real assets. So it can be with less hype, less bubbles, but way more. Near our real life. So we are waiting for that. And as for the last cycle, when NFT, burns into our views, it just pushed every properties, virtual properties, such as and other concepts such as metaverse and other kind of technologies, VR, AR, XR, things to the peak. And then since the MVP can't be well established, we still need more, maybe computing power, maybe there are other basic infrastructure is not ready for that. So the MVP can't be well established. And combined with other factors, as they already told, maybe the financial regulations, other things. Yeah, for Web3 world, we need a time of silence. We need to adjust ourselves. Yeah, we need to build and wait for better timing for the next circle. Yeah, and maybe there is some hotter concept to come, and then the cycle. Yeah, the bull market will come back. Yeah.
Sure. Or maybe bull cycle, so we don't say bear market or bear cycle, whatever. But the technical point is actually interesting. On your side, Arno, do you feel like there are some technical challenges that could help you to reach the masses? Like, what are you working on right now in the technical part?
Sure. There's obviously the technical aspects of creating a gaming ecosystem. It's again, we're still in alpha stage, and what is clear is that we're not just making a game. We're making a platform and a set of tools for people to be able to create their games, and we want to be able to honor whatever creativity is in our community. So we want to create more different features for people to be able to develop also. whatever they want to do in terms of gaming mechanics. So, but beyond that, from a user experience standpoint, also, we still need to make this more seamless for people to just be able to onboard straight into the sandbox, but also into other metaverse platforms. So, we're working with our co-founders signed OMA 3, which is a kind of an agreement among different Web3 actors, specifically, when it comes to metaverse, about standards when it comes to the type of files and everything that we can be able to create, so that we can create interoperability. For example, GLTF files would be the standards for 3D assets, for example, if you want to take them from the sandbox to another metaverse project and so on. That would make things a lot easier for people to be able to navigate and really create a metaverse, because we're all about decentralization and interoperability. The other thing is just as simple as, again, I think Max, you mentioned that last time about MetaMask. Do we still want to be using this in 10 years? We need to make this more seamless. So today, if you go on sandbox.game, you can actually register, and it can create, you can really register with your Google account or whatever, and it will create seamlessly a crypto wallet, because you do need a crypto wallet to be associated with your account. That's already a good step in the right direction, but I feel like the fact that there's still this necessity maybe is still a little bit difficult for some people. So again, what we're trying to do is really kind of think of all the aspects, whether it's from a builder perspective or from an end user gamer perspective. We want to make sure everything is as smooth as possible, and there are still hurdles based on the fact that Web3 and the blockchain is in and of itself kind of a technology with a few more extra steps.
Yeah. Could you explain regarding the gamers? I mean, to me, it's really unbelievable. I mean, we provide them a new way to own their things. I mean, to own the car that they're using for their game or whatever. But still, it feels like they are massively rejecting the blockchain. Do you have an explanation to that?
I think overall, I mean, I'm a gamer. It's gonna kind of kill the vibe when I think about my age, but I've been a gamer since the late 80s, early 90s, meaning that I've seen, as a user at least, different kind of generations of games. I remember people being super angry at seeing the then new Monkey Island that came out in 2006, which was a huge IP from LucasArts in the 90s, and it was coming out in different chapters. And people were like, why can't they just release the game and I pay for the entire game and all that stuff? And so every time in gaming, because people are so passionate, again, I think it has to do with the depth of the community. You can be a fan of a series, of a movie or a movie franchise. I'm not saying those people are not, super fans, but when you're a fan of a game, you've invested like 100 hours at least into it, probably, depending on the game. And it makes you that much more passionate about whatever direction that media takes, or that IP takes. And so when you have such dedicated fans, whatever happens next is going to affect them even more. And so there was resistance to, again, this kind of like chapter approach to video games, or even like early release stuff. Like you have a lot of indie game developers that need an income before they actually finalize the game, and it's already really playable. But I have friends who are really big gamers, and they really don't like that thing. But if you play like a game like Valheim that's been out on Steam for like a couple of years, you can play so much stuff, but it's still not a finished game. But you can still sink, hundreds of hours into the game. So to me, I'm open to that. I've always been less worried about the format than the content in and of itself. But going back to Web3, you've seen the same problem with freemium. Whether it's on mobile gaming or even, games like Warzone is a pretty recent game when you think about how long it took for a company like Activision to actually develop like a freemium model where really Warzone is free to play, but then you can buy skins and all kinds of different kits, and they had to tread a fine line with it not being as they call pay to win, meaning you need to buy certain things that will give you an unfair advantage of the game. So all of these balances are things that need to be worked out for big game companies to make sure that their community accepts that step into tokenization of assets and things like that. So Is it going to happen among big Web 2 companies? Probably. We've seen certain companies that we're partnering with that are interested in testing out the waters. But I think it's going to take some time for them to figure it out. When you look at a game like, sorry, this is getting really into nerd talk, but there's this series of games called Ultima, and Ultima Online came out in '98, I think, and they had this, and it was like one of the first MMORPGs, and it was a disaster in the beginning because the in-game economy crashed, literally. And that wasn't even on the blockchain, it was actually an economy within the game. So I think it took a while for people to be able to like balance out all those things. And for a major gaming company, whether it's again Activision or EA or whatever, like they've never really announced anything that has to do with NFTs. I think they're, and I can't speak for them, but I think most companies, are looking to see where it's going, and then when they think the first like things are well balanced, then they'll probably dip their toes into it. And while at the Sandbox we make again empowerment and blockchain integration really part of our DNA, because the point is really for us to empower the creators. That's where our value add is, I think.
Thanks.
I think the point at which NFTs will be accepted by the gaming community, to take your example, is going to be, I don't know if it will happen. I hope it will, but I don't know if it will. Is when you have assets that are transferable from a franchise to another franchise. So basically cross-franchise assets. I think that would be the penultimate, version of acceptation of blockchain in the gaming industry, because when you think within a franchise, you don't really need NFTs to have, cross-game assets. Let's take Ubisoft for examples. For example, you can have Assassin's Creed skins in a Rabbids game, or you can have Assassin's Creed skins in a Rainbow Six game. Rainbow Six actually tried NFTs at one point, went super bad. But the thing is, it's also difficult, I think, from a publisher perspective. I'm not an expert in video games, but even though I'm a player, I'm not a professional in the video game industry. Maybe you can complete on what I'm going to say. But basically, the thing that publishers have to understand is NFTs are going to open, or are able to open, the secondary market for them, which is, to my mind, a game changer. Let's say you're, I don't know, again, Activision, you release some Call of Duty skins, and you can get, let's say, you set the royalties to like 10 or even 15%, which is huge. I don't hope they do that, but let's say even 5, 6%. They can get 5 or 6% of revenue without having to know who's buying which skin at any point in time. It's a game changer, I think, in terms of revenue for those. Honestly, I just think, I'm not an expert. And when they realize that, and if it happens, cross-franchise assets happen, that would be a game changer. But I don't think it's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years. I think it's going to take longer than that.
Sorry if I may add to this, and I don't want to hog the mic, so feel free to cut me off anytime. But it's, I'm pretty passionate about this. There's one thing that I agree, but even playing a little bit of devil's advocate, because I'm speaking to people who tell me, why do we need the blockchain? When it comes to these things, for example, if it's an intra-company kind of cross-franchise kind of thing, you could just say, whether it's Activision or Ubisoft or another publisher, they could very well not use the blockchain and use an intra, kind of like a very centralized approach to having assets in Call of Duty, going into Overwatch and then going into Diablo and all that stuff. And they could just do that without the blockchain. I think one of the drivers is the more we see partnering brands coming in. For example, you see it with, Tim Sweeney talked about it when he actually did mention the word metaverse quite a lot in his keynote about Epic and what they want to do. They already have partnerships with a lot of different IPs, and even Ralph Lauren, for example, they made skins in there. And if Ralph Lauren one day wants to, say, hey, I want to do something with this other platform, whether it's Roblox or whatever, like those partners will really have a much more of an incentive for it to be on the blockchain, because they don't want to be dependent on, a centralized system that was developed by Epic, for example. If they want to be on Roblox, then they want to have to be able to bridge those, and interoperability is going to be then, I think, super important for the blockchain to be to reach mass adoption.
And I think the ones that are going to push for that, or that will have an incentive for that to happen, probably won't be the publishers as much as the IPs that are partnering with the publishers. If those publishers want to keep attracting, again, like different brands to, whether it's Fortnite, whether it's Call of Duty or whatever.
Yeah, so for that they would need to change completely their habits, the way they've been working so far, because they would need to go to the same table and discuss how they do that, how they do things together. Somehow it makes me think about Web3 regulation. It's like, we know that if it was more regulated, definitely we would have a better adoption, but it is worldwide, so we would need a worldwide regulation. How can we hope that people will completely change their mindset and at some point accept decentralization for what it really is? Do you believe it? In 5, 10 years, maybe 20 years, I don't know. But is it like, we had that with democracy, like, is it a journey or is it a destination? What about decentralization? I mean,
Yeah, so it's really interesting because last night I went to a very degen party, and then there was a video that was shown, direct. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. And then the last sentence, which is stuck in my head, was that, will DeFi has to go dark? So to me, I mean, obviously recently there's the Ripple case that's blown, everyone knows it, everyone heard about it. But I think it is still very ambiguous that where the authorities will stand on this issue, because you can't really tell from all the things that they released. Even though they said Ripple is not selling securities, but in the papers they kind of said they're selling securities, but not to, not through a exchange that has securities or something like that. So it's quite ambiguous. Then, what's the rubric of really categorize it? So, but to me, our fund thesis, it's quite simple. We want to invest in a trustless, decentralized network that is going to, well, I don't want to say not compliant, but it will be its own regulation. It will be its own space, because that's what we, especially for our generation, that's what we kind of envisioned crypto and Web3 to be. Not really challenging the traditional finance space, but at least coexisting, right? So I think that is something that we should aim for, instead of trying to adapt, trying to, otherwise there will be, why do we need to disrupt, right?
I very much agree with what you said, and I think, honestly, maybe I'm going to make some enemies by saying this, but pure and absolute decentralization is utopian to my knowledge and to my thinking. However, it should be, again, a driver. It should be something that you tend towards all the time, with the limits of your business, right? Because, again, depending on what you're building, it's a broad question. So depending on what you're building, you cannot decentralize everything. But one thing you can decentralize in the vast majority of businesses is decision power. DAOs are an extremely good example of this. So again, pure decentralization is, to my mind, not doable. Maybe there's been some examples here and there, and to be honest, I would like to be wrong. But it really depends on what you're building, and you should be tending toward it for as much as you can, for as long as you can, just because it makes sense, right? Centralized entities have been a problem for ever. So, just decentralizing at least decision power, even if it's, minimal, is the way to go, to my mind.
Thanks. Before we wrap up, I have one last question, because so far we talk about things that have prevented mass adoption, like maybe the technology is not ready, maybe the bear market was there. could we also say that there was something else that stole the spot of star of the show from the blockchain, and it's called AI, which was the main mass adoption maybe topic of the year?
I don't consider AI to be massively adopted as well. So I want to really clarify on what do we call mass adoption. You know, like first of all, it's like, what is mass adoption? Like, is that we're going to the scale of mobile internets, or it's just going to be an enterprise solution, or it's just going to be within the DeFi community, which is already pretty big right now, that it's going to be self-sustainable, that it's going to be well, helping people solve problems, that it's going to answer to pain points that is arising in the world. So is that mass adoption, or does everyone have to use MetaMask, right? So that is my kind of the things that I always think about. And secondly is that for mass adoption, we really need to think about the mass, right? So what are the problems at? Right now, obviously, we are building a lot of infra projects and a lot of perpetual DEX or DEX on infra projects. Is that the only thing that we need on on layer 2s, right? Can we build something more, or that is all we're gonna get, right? So those are the things that we need to think about. Obviously, the fundamentals, the layer 1, layer 2s, they're important for scalability, interoperability, no question about it. But also, those are not going to the mass, right? What do we build on top? It can't just be perpetual DEX, right? Yeah, so.
What about the AI?
Yeah, for AI, to me, I think it is going to be a greatly efficient tool for you know, us or any people who has to increase their efficiency. But I think the purpose of Web3 is, well, the efficiency part is what we're trying to increase, but the most part for us is we're trying to redefine the structure that people make decisions, for example, make transactions. So I think the tools that we are, the purpose of two industries, they're widely different, like I said. So I think the definition of mass adoption of two industries are going to be vastly different. Yeah.
Thank you.
And honestly, to come back to your question, I don't think that AI is really stealing the show. I mean, if you see it from like a money perspective, yes, of course it is. I mean, just look at the VC investments from 2022 in crypto compared to 2023. I think it's like divided by 10 or something. And AI is the contrary. But the thing is, I don't think it's really stealing the show, but rather creating another one, in the sense that, again, blockchain and AI are, to my mind, complementary. Because the thing is, to come back on what was said, AI allows you to to be extremely effective, but not necessarily in a qualitative way, because you can do anything. But as we say, like jack of all trades, master of none, in a way that you can now be a designer extremely quickly. You can now be a consultant and ask ChatGPT on how you should, you know, talk to a company. You can become anything with much less actual, tangible added value than someone who's been in the works for, let's say, years or decades. And the thing is, we need blockchain for truth and the veracity of information. And, you know, AI is cool. You can make cool pictures with it. You can make cool presentations with it. But when you actually want to make sure that the person you're talking to is legit, and or when you're consulting on information, AI is not going to be the thing that proves to you that it's actually valuable, you know. I think blockchain is one of the ways to guarantee that. So they work alongside each other very well, I think.
Perfect. Sorry, I have to interrupt you guys because it's time for lunch. But I think it's a good news. People are starving at the moment. So thank you guys. It was very interesting.
Thank you,
GameFi, AI, mass adoption. Great.